One Piece chapter 1155 dropped this week, and Oda is making this flashback even more crazy. We've got more rocks, more Loki, more Herald, and off the rip, Oda just starts dumping Rock's feats. Every flashback arc has always been so juicy with lore and new information on characters, and this one is quickly becoming one of my favorite, if not my favorite so far. There's just so much to talk about and things that can be missed, so let's jump into it. The chapter starts off pretty much right where we left off with Loki meeting the Rocks pirates, with Rocks wanting to meet up with Herald now that he's got his own crew going, and the interaction here is devious. Rocks tries telling Loki to send a message saying he's been hurt and to get Herald to come back. You know, hey, go get your dad. And Loki's reaction is about as much as we'd expect. He pretty much tries to tell Rocks to F off, and in return, this man Rocks winds up and fuses his sword with Conqueror's Haki and just smacks the crap out of Loki. This man did not have to do all that. But what's even more interesting is the narrator box telling us something about his sword skills. It says his swordsmanship was known for its brutal impacts akin to a giant hammer or cannon fire that blew away everything in the surrounding vicinity. And he used that to give Loki a Conqueror's infused sack tap. Why did he do that to him? How dare he? How could you do this to my son? But after that, we cut even further back in time to when Rocks and Herald first met, and the page opens up to Rocks chilling with Emu in the flower garden. Our man is straight up posted with the Glock staring down Emu, and we see who is almost assuredly Gunko. Some same front bangs, hair color, heterochromia in her eyes, which shows that she's been a God's Knight for decades. And it makes me wonder if Gunko was one of the first that was turned into a God's Knight, or if we're just seeing her specifically because Oda already made the connection between her and Brook, which we still need some elaboration on. But as the narrator box says, Rocks knew he was not ready for this fight. He knew that even though he made it all the way there, he still was not a high enough level and needed to go back to grinding. That was where there was also a note that he was a worshiper of Davy Jones, which is wild to hear now. Recap for those of you who may need a reference for One Piece and Davy Jones. While there's no official character in the series that's introduced as Davy Jones, the Davy Back fight is correlated to his existence, and I've even spied posts on Twitter speculating that Davy Jones could be the man marked by flames. I think it's a long shot, but I won't rule it out entirely. Davy Jones, a legendary pirate capable of controlling whirlpools, the man marked by flames, rumored to create whirlpools. The pieces are already coming together, but in reference to being a Davy Jonesian pirate, as the scans said, or a worshiper of Davy Jones, I think in this case it's more along the lines of Davy Back fights and the principles behind honoring those wins. And what do you think was going on between the two of them? Gunko seemed to be just chilling, probably with full faith that Emu could handle anything Rocks threw at them. Rocks was probably like, see, I knew it. He had to have known that there was more to find in the Holy Land than just a bunch of idiot celestial dragons. But just how much is still unknown to him? Did he find the room with all the vaults? Or did he actually just speed run through the castle, muscling through anybody that stood in his way, and just found the throne room and the garden room? If Rocks was actually royalty, then it would give more context as to how he knew what to look for. And if he wasn't, then damn, he really just said fuck it and ran through the block. Emu, on the other hand, looks completely unfazed, though being a silhouette doesn't really do much help in determining what's going on through their mind. Rocks doesn't stay there long though, and he leaves Emu with a most foreboding, "I'll be back." All Emu does is look over at him and go, "Oh, yeah, okay, we'll see." And as fate would have it, Herald also snuck into Marie Joie, showing us that his friend who let him in actually wasn't Rock's. As they're both scrambling to find their way out, Harold's ass just gets set on fire and he's freaking out because people are blaming him for Rox's actions. I mean, kidnapping 5 kings, off-screening an admiral. Embarrassing. As Fleet Admiral Kainu has firmly stated, don't make excuses for them. But as they're running up on each other, they clash and it looks so good. Just like Whitebeard and Roger and Kaido and Luffy, their blades don't even touch, which is going to move Harold way up in people's top 30s. I can already see it. So they use the 5-kilometer knockback to clear the area and escape. And then this wild man Harold just jumps off the red line. Do you guys remember how high that goes? It's well above the clouds. It's basically akin to Kaido jumping off the Sky Island while trying to end everything, probably even higher. I'd be shitting myself as Rocks in that scenario. Can you imagine being on Harold's shoulder, hanging on to his cape and just thinking, oh, fuck! I mean, for somebody who killed an admiral and stared Emu in the face, he was probably pretty composed. By now, I'd be shitting my pants. I'd be screaming like a little girl. And after that, we get a little fast forward of Rox's feats and activities after leaving the Holy Land. Killing an admiral was the most grievous sin, and his bounty boomed. Though the exact number is still unknown, which, of course, it would still be unknown, Oda. But it would be hard to justify it being bigger than Roger and Whitebeard, given the statement made in chapter 957 about there being no bounties in pirating history that surpassed them, unless you wanted to count Rocks being scrubbed from history. Then maybe it is higher. Which, if it's not, it is to some degree a little disappointing. However, there are things we see in this chapter that Rocks did that was kept under wraps and couldn't be counted towards his bounty. So I get it. I get it. But as the narrator box said, he attacked a ship carrying a great amount of celestial tribute, which deserved, and destroyed the gates of justice. Those are huge. Those are so ginormous. And I think his swordsmanship, with his sword swings having a cannon-like effect, are a large contributing factor to that. Much like we have finesse and technique from somebody like Mihawk, Rox's style is much more just like brute force, with the sword being a tool rather than Mihawk's mindset of the sword being an extension of yourself. But flash forward back to after Rox's falcon punching Loki's balls, we got a reunion between him and Harold, but this time with the rest of the crew. Along with Rox trying his best to convince Harold to join him, there's Shiki the Wicked, future Golden Lion, and his attire is very much in the style of Wano. While it's not confirmed, I wouldn't be surprised if Odin was actually to some degree inspired by Shiki if he was from Wano, because Odin would have been in his late 20s, or late teens, I believe, during this flashback. Then there's Miss Buckingham Stussy, or Miss Bucking Stussy, I think it was said, the Tech Bandit, which, huge fall from grace, my god. Then we have Don Marlin, a gangster from West Blue, which is where, to note, Capone Beige is from. Are we seeing Capone stocks rise up with the possibility of him being Don Marlin's son? Because he's 42 years old now, and the God Valley incident occurred 38 years ago. You tell me. Then we have Edward Newgate, the GOAT. Nothing more needs to be said. Pirate Prophet Ochaku, or Wang Zhe. I'm a little iffy on the pronunciation on that, so you'll have to correct me in the comments. The future Commodore of Pirate Island. This is the man that took both Blackbeard and Kobe during the time skip to take down, so Blackbeard could start ruling over Hachinoso. So he's actually pretty nasty. Then we have Ganzui, the smuggler, which not really much to be said yet. Pretty cool. I think we believe we saw him in Thriller Bark. But we're still missing Kaido, Big Mom, Captain John, Gloriosa, Strusen, and Gilbestar, and some others that were shown in chapter 1096 during the Kuma God Valley flashback. After the crew's introductions, we get Rox's immediate goal for taking over Hachinoso, and to use it as his base to begin his takeover of the whole world. And it was there that Rox became the figurehead to Loki that Shanks is to Luffy, or the inspiration, where he realized that he found his salvation in Rox and his ideals, where he could live in a world ruled by strength and power, where he could be accepted by others around him who are also strong. The question comes to mind now is how Loki will react to Luffy's involvement in Elbaf, and if Blackbeard will still have any influence over him if he were to show up. Will Loki want to continue on his path of destruction and join Blackbeard in his quest to take over the world? Or will his heart change with the time spent with Luffy and the Straw Hats and getting his name cleared up? At his core, I believe he not only wants to live among the strong, but he wants to be accepted and respected. And the Straw Hats are probably the best crew for that, to accept him into their family, and not just use him as a tool or a means to an end, which is exactly what Rox and Blackbeard would do. It has been such an insane chapter that I honestly hope is leading to the God Valley incident. I can see the next chapter establishing the rest of the Pirates crew, having the takeover of Hachinoso, and then set things up for the God Valley incident, with the chapter after that being the God Valley incident itself and showing the demise of Rox and the disbanding of the crew, thus giving us Loki and Harold's reaction to learning about his death. We've got a lot of lore left to learn before returning to the present day. The reveal of what really happened to Harold being one of them, because it's clear that Loki didn't kill Harold. He was with Ja Rule walking up into the throne room when they found him being attacked by everyone. But we'll need to see the events leading up to Loki taking the devil fruit and what the fruit really is. Now, I hope Loki joins the Straw Hat crew. I'm definitely leaning more and more towards that side of the fence. But let me know your thoughts on the chapter. Do you think Loki's going to be swayed by Blackbeard? And do you think we're actually going to get a full-fledged flashback of God Valley? Because with how much is being given of Rox, it's very likely. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like down below and subscribe. I will be keeping up with One Piece videos here, as well as the occasional shorts, reactions to the chapters and episodes. I'm Rathofreptar, and I will see you all in the next video.